Will LeBron James ever be the GOAT? You can never say never, all right? We'll never say never. We'll never know how history rewrites the books. We'll never know how people feel about things. Just let him be great. And he falls into this trap as well because he's saying, like, he wants his respect. He put it on himself. He's the chosen one. He never, like, this is the first time I really heard him say in the finals that, hey, you guys could debate that and stuff like that. But then what he does is he goes on Twitter and he says, what other stat do I have to break? What other first thing do I have to do? What other imaginary stat do I have to be to become like the GOAT, the greatest of all time? And so he feeds back into it. So one moment he's saying, forget it, which I like, because you don't crown yourself anything. People just say you're the greatest. You see what I'm saying? Like with Mike never said he was the greatest. He never ever said he was the greatest. Everybody else says it and they universally accept it. But he never said that about himself. Well, LeBron James, I feel like less he stops talking about being the greatest of all time or chasing ghosts and things of that nature, just saying that the more he says, I just want to be the best. And don't mention anything else. I just want to be the best me. I just want to win championships. That's going to sort itself out. He be the GOAT? Yes. He could be the GOAT one day. Anybody could be the GOAT one day. Anybody could be the GOAT one day. You just have to meet that platinum status. When I say platinum status, Mike is the platinum standard. You know how people say there's the gold standard? Mike is the platinum standard. He went to 6 finals and never lost. He not only did he back-to-back, he back-to-back-to-back. He three-peated. Not only that, he did it twice. So to me, what people have to understand is a player, for me to consider a player to be the greatest of all time, in my criteria, it's not just championships, it's not just points. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And people will say, well, yeah, LeBron came back from 3-1. His competition has been great. And he's faced some of the toughest competition. But me personally, if you've never three-peated, I can't say you the greatest of all time. Or because I know there's guys that went back to back, of course, back to back, or 3 out of the 4 and stuff like that. But to me, it wasn't just that fact that Mike has 6 championships he never lost. It's the fact that he three-peated. That means, and he did it twice. That means for three consecutive years, nobody could win a championship. And then another 3 consecutive years, nobody could win a championship. Mike has stopped multiple people from winning championships. That guys that retired and never won anything. You're looking at LeBron James, multiple people have got championships off him. Dirk, Jason Terry, Jason Kidd, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant. To me, that matters. That matters because it's one thing to be a dominant player, because when people look at the greatest of all time, they just keep telling about the player. Guys, it's not just the player that makes you the greatest of all time. It's how your team is elevated. And that's one thing that really gets ignored in this conversation. People want to tell you LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. That's fine. What team would you say has LeBron James been on is the most dominant team of all time? A team that you could really put up there and say, this team I'll put them up against anybody, any day. Let's play. Like an all-time great team. To me, like LeBron James, he's the first superstar that, yes, he makes you a contender every single time. But at the same time, I feel like his teams aren't all-time great teams. We're gonna say that Cavs teams is an all-time great team. They beat an all-time great team, I guess, in the Warriors. But does that automatically mean you're all-time great? The Miami Heat, are they an all-time great team? Like, are they a team that you say you could put them against the '85 Lakers, or you put them against that 72-10 Bulls, and you feel comfortable like they're an all-time great team. That's kind of like that's where I feel like the argument stops for me. Because not only was Jordan all-time great, his teams are like all-time great. Like the 93 Bulls, the 96 Bulls. Like his teams, the teams that he's had, and you can say coach, player, or whatever, but he was the driver. He's the bus driver of the teams. They're all-time great teams, three-peat teams. You can say he needed Scottie Pippen. That's fine. I don't care. All-time great teams. LeBron James, to me, I guess the Miami Heat are like one team that you could say is an all-time great team. I think the 2013. But like one team out of 4 that you played on, because you count Cleveland twice. One team out of 3 or 4 that you played on, I don't think so. That's where I draw the debate. I think like people just want to make it like one arbitrary thing. Like, especially you got to think about this. Jordan played less seasons. He had a higher player efficiency rating. And people will say, well, he wants to play golf and who cares? Like that, there's always a counter argument for everything that I'm saying here. But the fact that Jordan basically did LeBron James' whole entire career in 3 years. He won an MVP, Finals MVP. He did all of that in one of his 3-peats. So LeBron James is on the accolade-wise, in terms of like championship-wise, he's just starting to catch up now, year 17, and that's amazing. But realistically, you have to factor in a few things in terms of being the GOAT, which is your team. And I feel like LeBron James stands alone, but his teams don't stand with him. Like it's always like it stands alone. Even with Kyrie, like nobody ever give Kyrie that respect, like as an all-time great player. He's like one of the all-time great handlers, but you're not gonna say people don't feel like he's an all-time great player. And like Dwayne Wade, all-time great player, but those two was never all-time great team. Like, and that matters. I think people just really lose sight of that. Like when you're talking about MJ, you're looking at an all-time great team, and him being the leader of the all-time great team, it means something, because it means that if he wasn't there, they wouldn't be an all-time great team. So people say like, oh, LeBron elevates everybody and Jordan doesn't. I think that's bullshit. I think that's bullshit, because if Jordan's not there for certain bailout shots or pushing guys or getting on guys' ass, we're not talking about a 72-10 Bulls team. We're not talking about that. To me, the losses already kill you in the conversation in terms of comparing it to other people, but he could be the GOAT. Yes, he could. If LeBron 3-peats, if he could get a 3-peat out of this, figure out a way to get a 3-peat this year, I have no problem saying somebody saying he's the GOAT. Because I mean, honestly, then that'll put him what? I'll put him at 6. I'll put him at 6. Put you at 6, but you did a 3-peat. So now it's like you're comparable. But then people might say MJ got 2 of them, but at least he has 1 3-peat. Like, to me, back-to-back isn't good enough. That's not good enough for me to say you're the GOAT. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. And your team, so like if they 3-peat, you can say this Lakers team is an all-time great team. So then now it's like everything. It's a marriage. It's not just stats, not individual players, because everything is like, oh, this individual guy, or LeBron lifted the team to the playoffs all these times. I don't care about that. Are you an all-time great team? Because all-time great player is great, but now did your all-time greatness bring your team to all-time great team that we could say in history? This team, like, whoa, this team was balling out like all the time. Because that Cavs team, yeah, they control the East, but the East is garbage. And they got that one against Golden State. But, of course, Golden State got Kevin Durant and stuff like that. But even with the Warriors, you're looking at the Warriors like, yo, they're an all-time great team. Like, they went to the finals 5 straight times. They won 3 out of 5. They had Kevin Durant. They had the all-time great offense. Like, they have so many things that if LeBron, let's just say LeBron was on the Warriors and they did that, then you could say LeBron's the GOAT. Because the way that you dominated the era. It's not just dominated and getting to the finals, but it's just also a lot of things about keeping people from winning, your team, how your team perform, and can we take your team and put them in a different era and see if they'll be successful. And let's just say all rules are equal or whatever the case is. Are they an all-time great team? Because let's just say you couldn't hand check the Celtics, but then Larry Bird is getting off on your ass. Or you know, the Lakers. Let's just say the 80s Lakers played it in today's era. They'll still be getting 60 wins and stuff like that. So that's just something to keep in mind. Hoops Junction, Hoops Beats Hoopla. Like, comment, and subscribe.